Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about the infamous She Hulk. Now let me just get this out of the way. I did not like She Hulk. The show did not work for me, but I will say that it has nothing to do with the show being too woke, too progressive, or being too feminist. That is not my issue with She Hulk, and I think you could still have great content be quote unquote woke or have a so-called message, as long as the message or the themes are interweaving into the script and are done subtly and are not done too blatantly in your face. I think those elements can actually elevate the movie in certain cases. Two movies that come to mind in recent memory that are quote-unquote woke but still slap in my opinion, I would say, are Black Panther, the 2018 film, and the 2017 Wonder Woman film. I think those movies did a really good job of having their message into script while still focusing on telling a compelling story and exploring the character development. Now look, I am really trying to be as fair as possible, so I'm not even going to mention a lot of the issues that people often raise up about She-Hulk, like having too much comedy, because I understand that yes, in her source material, that's how she is. That's how her storylines are. Her storylines are goofy. They're not to be taken too seriously. And I get all of that. So putting all of that aside, this show, knowing what it was trying to be, I still think failed. And I think that it failed at just being a funny show. Don't get me wrong. This show actually had certain moments, however sparse they were, that did make me chuckle here and there. But if the basis of this show is to be a comedy, and that's really what it's relying on to capture the audience, for 9 episodes, for how many weeks that this been airing, I do think this show fails at retaining the audience attention. I can say that it certainly failed at keeping me engaged throughout. Depending on if you like the show or not, might actually not take this into account, or you might dismiss this reason. But to me, the show was just too random. It felt like a Family Guy sitcom or a SpongeBob TV show or a Disney Channel like Ant Farm type of stuff. Every episode had its own plot. Now I get it. She-Hulk is supposed to be a sitcom in her comic books, so she's not supposed to have an overarching plot. I get it. But the plots that they decided to go with, I'm sorry, those plots were just not interesting. Those plots were, I understand that She-Hulk is a goofy character, but those plots were not even goofy, they were straight up childish. One of the plots that come to mind when I think about childish is that one episode where She-Hulk basically gets sued by Tatiana because Tatiana stole the name She-Hulk out of pure pettiness, and they fight at a wedding about it. And I'm just like, this does not feel real. I know the MCU is not The Dark Knight and it's not a Christopher Nolan movie, but if you watch the MCU movies from Iron Man up until Endgame, there are comedic parts to each of those movies, but the characters always feel like they live in the real world, you know what I mean? Like, they don't feel like you're watching a Disney or Nickelodeon sitcom like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody or something. Now, another issue I have with the plots is that from halfway into the season all the way till the end, or at least till the Daredevil episode, there is a similar routine in every single episode in that point. It feels like watching Pokemon.
Prepare for trouble!
Make it double!
To protect the world from devastation.
To unite all peoples within our nation.
To denounce the evils of truth and love.
To extend our reach to the stars above.
Now what I mean is, like, for example, an episode would start, Jen would be crying about like needing a boyfriend, so she would go through a bunch of either idiots or misogynistic men that would say something very cartoonish on their dates, and at the end of the episode she would find just the right guy. So they would go back to her apartment, they would hook up, have sex, and then the next morning, boom, the guy's gone, and then Jen is like left there just looking like she's been bamboozled for the 58th time. And then you just rinse and repeat, and I swear the show did this for at least 5 episodes straight. And I'm telling you, the reason why I'm bringing up the Pokemon comparison is because that format is exactly what Pokemon does. Our heroes meet a new friend who happens to be in danger, and then Team Rocket shows up and they do their little dance and they get their ass handed to them by Ash and Pikachu, and then the Team Rockets get sent blasting off again.
Looks like Team Rocket's blasting off again!
And then next episode you rinse and repeat, and at some point I just felt like She Hulk was basically Pokemon, where you just rinse and repeat. Now I get it, She Hulk doesn't have to have a whole narrative through line through all 9 episodes. But if you're gonna have a different plot every episode, at least give us something interesting. Now another thing I gotta say that was quite disappointing about this show, this character did not have any goals. And I think that is important for any movie or TV show that has a central lead, for them to have, wants, to have goals, to have something that motivates them. Now, even if you want to say that She Hulk is more of a day in the life type of show than an epic storyline over the course of 9 episodes, I hear you on that. But still, She Hulk should still have things that she's working towards, because then it gives us, the audience, more of an attachment to her. Because we feel her, we're like, we want to help you succeed on this journey. Now I know that some of you will say that, what do you mean? She does have wants and goals. She's looking for the right man. And I will just submit this to you. That is a goal, I guess, but if you're saying this show is supposed to break barriers for women, wouldn't you feel that that plot is a little too tried and true and overused for female characters, that the one thing they're looking for is true love? Wouldn't you say that that's like a stereotyped female role? Wouldn't you want Jennifer to have a stronger female role? And don't get me wrong, I do think Jennifer Walters' dating life should be a big part of the She-Hulk show, but I don't think it should be a thing that you use over and over and over again and just make it a rotation every episode where she just recycles through a new guy. I think that you could have her go on dates, but have her main thing be something more out of the ordinary, something a little bit more quirky. Now, to really highlight what I'm really trying to say, let me just propose this narrative tweak to She-Hulk. Let's say that yes, she is looking for true love, she is lonely, but let's say that what really bothers her is the injustice in the criminal system. That a lot of the superpowered criminals locked up are not actually bad people, they're just assumed to be bad people because of what they can do. Let's say that people like Abomination, let's say that when you really dig through it, he's more of a victim rather than a perpetrator of violence, and he needs to be treated, not be punished. If She-Hulk had this philosophy, just pushing her throughout the whole show, then I am willing to bet that at least half of the people that dislike this show would flip on their opinion and would actually like the show. And the show could still keep its same narrative structure. I mean, you could improve the jokes a little bit, just make them a little bit more clever. But even with all that being said, just her having that ideology and fighting for what she believes, that would propel us to be more attached to the character and be more engaged in whatever drama she's going through. If you think about it, that's how we initially built a connection with our original Avengers characters. Captain America has a point of view, he has a view of the world, he has things that he wants to see change in the world. He believes in calling out evil, regardless of where it shows up, whether it's on the enemy side or on your own team. He just believes in pure good. I just feel like they made Jennifer Walters' character a little vapid in this show. She doesn't really believe in anything, and it's hard to get attached to someone like that in the show, especially considering that Jennifer Walters is this upper middle class, successful lawyer white woman. And there's nothing wrong with being a successful white woman, but if you're making a show about a relatively successful white woman that prior to getting her powers had not really any life issues at all, and then she gets powers and then she freaks out for about 5 minutes, and then from then on her main issue is I want the right guy, I'm sorry, at least to me that's not very compelling and it doesn't really attach me to the character. I'm just sitting there watching her like, I don't care, this is first world problems. and you're making whole episode storylines based off first world problems. Now, the good part of the show, I thought the show actually started off with some promise. When Jennifer Walters was tasked to represent the Abomination and clear his name, I thought that was an interesting premise. This is a guy who nearly killed her cousin. He's been in prison for a decade now. This is your cousin's arch enemy. I actually thought it would have been a really good opportunity to explore the drama that friction would cause between Jennifer having to release Abomination and possibly finding some evidence to show that he's actually innocent while still keeping a good relationship with Hulk. I actually did like that sort of build-up that they had for Emil Blonsky in the first 2 episodes, where it was found out that he's still in Supermax prison and he's trying to get out, and we don't see him for the whole first episode, but his name is always in the air as if it's an inevitability that he will get out at some point, and we do not know what he's capable of after 10 years in prison. But it seems to me that they unfortunately went with the route of making him more of a comic relief character, even though it does turn out that he is working with the villain at the end. But the villain turns out not to be the villain of the show, which is kind of why are we doing this. I did like the idea of having a superhero law division where Jennifer Walters eventually ends up working as She Hulk, and they deal with scenarios that are bizarre that could only happen with people that have powers doing dumb things. I did like that, and I think that was a pretty good setup to have for the show, to have some pretty comedic moments. Only thing about that is that I wish the actual cases felt a little bit more real. Now, I'm not saying it has to be Better Call Saul, but I just wish there was a little bit more stakes in some of those cases, you know, like this is like a life sentence, or we found a way to remove your powers, or something, you know. I think that to have a good legal drama, even if it's a comedy, I just feel like you need to establish the consequences of where the case will go if it's decided one way or another for the characters. And again, it doesn't have to be Better Call Saul. It doesn't have to be based in literal real life law, but at least establish that, hey, if this case we don't win, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna screw you, and this is gonna screw me. Okay, now the last thing I have to say about She-Hulk is that I feel like the reaction towards the show is unjust, and that's not because I think the show is secretly amazing or anything. It's mostly because I feel like the people who don't like this show, or the people for whom this show has rubbed the wrong way, I feel like they don't know how to articulate what it is about the show that they don't like. And I feel like the easy go-to explanation for them is to say that it's because Marvel's gone woke. This show is too in your face with the feminism. And despite what these people are saying, I don't actually think that's the main reason why this show is eliciting this negative reaction. I think that if you had a movie like Black Panther or Wonder Woman and the script was not very good at all, I think people would have had similar reactions to that, similar to kind of what happened to Captain Marvel. And I don't want to dismiss the fact that yes, there are misogynists and there are people who are just racist, bigoted, etc. But I think to act like most of the fan base is that, I think it's unfair. I think it's the fact that this show is pushing progressive values, but at the same time the script is not very good at all. I think that mixture of a bad script and pushing the message or the progressive values can make the show come across as lazy pandering to a lot of viewers. And I think people will take that, and instead of expressing the fact that the main issue with the show is the script, they will kind of explain themselves by saying this show is bad because it's woke. But then you've had movies that are quote unquote woke from Marvel before. If you really think about it, Marvel has been going woke since the 1960s with the introduction of the X-Men, which was supposed to symbolize the civil rights movement at the time. And like I was saying earlier, when Black Panther came out, nobody was really complaining about it being too woke. And I think that is due to the script and the story being very engaging, and even people that thought it wasn't amazing, they were mostly just criticizing the movie on its own merits and not saying they didn't like it because of its wokeness. All in all, I do think She-Hulk was a missed opportunity. It started off with a great premise and it has some interesting plot points, but ultimately the show makes a decision to mostly be goofy and to mostly over focus on the segment of the population that does not like any type of media starring a lead female. And I do think those people should be made fun of and shamed, but I think the main thing that tanked this show was just the lack of character development and exploration that we've had. I will give Marvel credit credit for even attempting to do something new and different with this show. It was definitely a risk for Marvel that I don't think paid off, but had they tweaked the script here and there and just put a little bit more thought into it, I do think this could have been something special for the MCU. Alright, I want to thank you guys again for continuing to support my channel. In the past month, this channel grew by 40 subscribers, and that's the most that my channel has grown by in a single month since its creation, and that's all thanks to you guys, and I want to thank you guys for your continued support. If you are watching this video and you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. It really helps this channel being built up, and hopefully I can upload more consistently. I know I've been lacking in the past few weeks, but I am trying to upload at least once a week, and any type of support that you guys can give, whether that be subscribing, commenting, or even a simple like, really does help towards that goal of doing this full time. Thanks again for watching, guys. Leave a comment below. Do you agree with my assertions, or do you think I'm speaking nonsense? Let me know in the comment section below, and stay tuned for my review of Black Adam coming real soon.
Team Rocket blast off at the speed of light.
Surrender now or prepare to fight.
Me out, that's right.